The first gunshot cracked through the hospital ward like thunder splitting bone. Patients screamed, machines flatlined, and I watched a man with a rifle step out of the elevator, his eyes empty, his finger steady on the trigger, aimed straight at my mother's room. I remember thinking, this is where it ends. Because nobody knew the quiet night nurse standing beside me, clipboard tucked under her arm, hair tied back, voice calm, was an Army Ranger trained for moments exactly like this. Not until she moved. Not until everything changed. Welcome to my YouTube channel. This is my story of betrayal, and if you've ever trusted the wrong person, hit that subscribe button because you are not alone. Here is how it happened. I wasn't supposed to be at the hospital that night. I'd promised myself I'd go home, shower, sleep for a few hours, but my mother's breathing had been uneven all evening and something in my chest refused to settle, so I stayed. Plastic chair, cold coffee, the hum of fluorescent lights, the kind of night where time stretches thin. That's when she came in, the night nurse. She introduced herself softly like she didn't want to wake the room. Average height, no jewelry, no makeup, the kind of face you forget 5 minutes after looking away. Her badge read Lena. She checked my mother's IV, adjusted the monitor, and gave me a small nod. "Long night?" she said. I didn't know then how much that sentence would come to mean. Earlier that week, I was reading comments on my YouTube videos the other day, and I realized I wasn't the only one who trusted the wrong people in moments that mattered most. People wrote about hospitals, about family emergencies, about strangers who saved them, and others who vanished when things got hard. That night, I thought I was just another exhausted daughter in a hospital hallway. I had no idea I was standing inside someone else's war zone. The hospital was unusually quiet. Too quiet. Around 2:17 a.m., the lights flickered, just once, enough to make my stomach tighten. Somewhere down the hall, a monitor alarm chirped and then stopped abruptly. Lena froze. Not in fear, in calculation. Her eyes shifted, not panicked, not confused, but scanning, corners, reflections in glass, exit angles. I didn't notice it then, but later I would replay that moment over and over, realizing that was the second she knew exactly what was coming. The intercom never sounded. No code announcement, no warning, just the elevator ding. The door slid open at the far end of the ward. A man stepped out wearing a hoodie pulled tight around his face. In his hands, black, metallic, unmistakable, was an assault-style rifle. He didn't shout. He didn't hesitate. He fired into the ceiling. Plaster rained down. Screams exploded. Nurses ran. Patients cried out from behind curtains, tangled in tubes they couldn't escape. I couldn't move. My legs refused to listen to my brain, and my mother, frail, unconscious, lay completely exposed. Lena moved before anyone else did. She didn't scream. She didn't run. She stepped in front of the doorway. I grabbed her sleeve, shaking. "Please, please get help." She turned to me, and for the first time, her voice dropped low, command-level calm. "Lock the door behind me." "What?" I whispered. "If I don't come back in 60 seconds," she was already slipping off her badge, "get under the bed and don't move." 60 seconds. Who says that in a hospital? She walked into the hallway like she belonged there, like she owned it. The gunman swung toward her. "On the ground!" She raised her hand slowly, but her posture never broke. Her shoulders stayed squared, her feet planted just wide enough to pivot. She spoke to him the way a drill instructor speaks to chaos. "Hey, you're not gonna find what you're looking for here." The man laughed, sharp, unstable. "You don't know anything about me." Lena tilted her head. "I know your hands are shaking. I know you're not breathing right. And I know if you pull that trigger again, every exit locks." That wasn't hospital protocol. That was psychological warfare. I was crying silently behind the door, pressing my hand over my mouth so my mother wouldn't hear me fall apart if she woke. Then I heard something worse than gunfire. I heard recognition. The man paused. "Who are you?" For the first time, Lena let something slip into her voice. Not fear, authority. Someone who's been trained to end this without killing you. She lunged. I didn't see everything, just fragments, the rifle clattering, bodies slamming into walls, a scream cut short, a knee strike applied with terrifying precision. It lasted seconds. Then silence. No gunshots, just heavy breathing. Security swarmed in late, police followed later, administrators whispered. No one could explain how a single night nurse disarmed an armed gunman alone. Lena was gone when they came for statements, badge left on the counter. No last name, no trace. 3 days later, a man in a suit visited me. He showed me credentials I wasn't allowed to photograph, and he said something that still chills me. "Your mother wasn't the target," he said quietly, "but Lena was never supposed to be there either." Then he leaned closer. She was hiding from something far more dangerous than that gunman. And that's when I realized the hospital wasn't where the story began. It was where it finally caught up to her. And what she had done next would put all of our lives in even more danger. The man in the suit waited until the door to my mother's room was closed before he spoke again. "You need to understand something," he said, lowering his voice. "What happened here last night is not going to be reported the way you think it will." I felt my stomach drop. "People almost died." He nodded, and because they didn't, certain people wanted quiet. That was the first time I realized the danger hadn't left with the gunman. It had just changed shape. My mother woke up an hour later, confused, asking why there were police outside the ward and why the ceiling tiles were cracked. I lied to her. I said there was a small incident, a false alarm. I smiled like everything was normal while my hands shook under the blanket. Because I couldn't stop thinking about Lena, about the way she'd moved, about how she'd looked at the gunman, not like a nurse, not like a victim, but like someone who had faced worse and survived. I asked the charge nurse where Lena was. The charge nurse frowned. "We don't have a Lena on nights." I laughed nervously. "Yes, you do. Dark hair, quiet, badge said." She shook her head slowly. "No badge like that is registered in our system." Security footage from the hallway was corrupted. That's what they told me. The cameras inside patient rooms, offline for maintenance. The elevator footage, missing exactly 4 minutes. 4 minutes where Lena stopped a massacre. 4 minutes someone didn't want anyone else to see. I went home that morning but didn't sleep. Instead, I searched. Veteran databases, military commendations, Army Rangers discharged in the last 10 years, women with combat experience who might disappear into civilian life. Nothing concrete came up. Until I noticed something strange. A comment on one of my YouTube videos from 2 months earlier. The username was random, numbers and letters, but the comment said, "Sometimes the people who save us don't want to be known, they just want to be gone." At the time, I'd hearted it and moved on. Now my chest felt tight. That evening, the man in the suit came back. This time, he didn't pretend it was casual. "Miss Amon," he said, sitting across from me, "you're asking questions you shouldn't." "I'm asking about the woman who saved my mother's life." "She saved many lives," he corrected, "and because she did that, she broke several agreements." That word stuck with me. Agreements. "Who is she?" I asked. He studied my face like he was measuring how much truth I could handle. "She's former Army Ranger," he said finally. Tier 1 training, multiple overseas deployments, specialized in hostage recovery and counter-assault. My heart pounded. Then why was she a night nurse? She wasn't, really. He told me pieces, not everything. Lena had been part of a classified operation that went wrong years ago, the kind of wrong that doesn't end with court-martials, but with quiet disappearances. Some of her team died, others vanished into private security, black ops contracts, or early graves. Lena chose something else. She ran, changed her name, took jobs where people didn't look twice at her, places where competence was expected but heroics were not. Hospitals, night shifts, places full of pain, noise, and anonymity. She was supposed to stay invisible, the man said. Last night she sailed. I thought about the gunman again. You said my mother wasn't the target. He nodded. The gunman was a distraction, a test. Someone wanted to see if Lena was still capable. My blood ran cold. So they sent him? No, he said. They leaked her location to someone unstable and watched what would happen. That's worse, because it meant last night wasn't random, it was deliberate. Where is she now? I asked. He stood, gone. That's not an answer. It's the only one you'll get. Before leaving, he paused at the door. She likes you, he added. That's unusual for her. If she reaches out, if? I interrupted. He met my eyes. If she reaches out, don't try to follow her. People who look for her tend to end up collateral. 2 nights later, my mother was discharged. We were wheeled past the same elevator, the same hallway. Fresh paint covered the bullet holes. New tiles replaced the shattered ceiling. It looked normal, too normal. As we cast the nurse's station, I saw something tucked under the counter, a folded piece of paper. My name was written on it. Inside, in careful block letters, was a single sentence. They know I broke cover. Now they'll come for anyone connected to me. I'm sorry. Below it was a time and an address. Not a place to meet, a place to stay away from. That night, I didn't listen, because fear does strange things to gratitude. I told myself I just wanted to say thank you. I told myself I'd be careful. I told myself I wouldn't be seen. And that decision, walking toward the place she warned me away from, would put me directly in the crosshairs of the people who had already tried to kill her once. And when I arrived, I realized Lena wasn't running anymore. She was preparing for war. The address led me to the edge of the city, where streetlights flickered, like they were deciding whether to stay awake or give up. The building itself looked abandoned, windows dark, paint peeling, a place no one would notice if something went wrong inside. I parked 2 blocks away, just like the note warned me not to do. My hands were sweating on the steering wheel. Every instinct screamed at me to turn around. I didn't. The door wasn't locked. That should have been my first sign. Inside, the air smelled like dust and metal. No furniture, no personal touches, just an empty room with a single light on in the back. And Lena. She stood there in plain clothes, black jacket, boots, hair tied tighter than before. On the table in front of her lay things I'd only ever seen in movies. Weapons, medical kits modified for combat, maps of the hospital, the surrounding streets, marked in red ink. She didn't look surprised to see me. She looked disappointed. "I told you not to come," she said quietly. "I had to," I replied. "You saved my mother." "That's exactly why you shouldn't be here." She checked the window before speaking again. "They're watching," she said. "Not constantly, but enough." "Who are they?" I asked. She finally looked at me then. Really looked. "The people who trained me," she said, "and the people who decided I knew too much." Lena explained what the man in the suit wouldn't. The operation she'd been part of hadn't just gone wrong, it had been sabotaged. Someone high up had sold out a ranger unit to a private military contractor. The ambush wiped out half her team. She survived because she didn't follow orders. That made her dangerous. When soldiers disobey and live, she said, it makes powerful people nervous. I asked her why she didn't just disappear completely. She gave a humorless smile. Because running forever isn't living, and because sometimes even ghosts need a place where no one asks questions. A hospital. I thought of the gunman again. That wasn't a test. That was an execution attempt, I said. She nodded, and I failed to stay dead. She told me something else that night, something that changed how I saw everything. The gunman hadn't come to kill patients. He was supposed to die. He was bait. If Lena had killed him, if she'd used lethal force, it would have justified what came next, a clean removal, no questions. But you didn't, I said. No, she replied. I disarmed him, on camera. My stomach twisted. You said the footage was corrupted. She looked sharply at me. That's what they want you to believe. She crossed the room and handed me a small flash drive. If anything happens to me, she said, this goes public. What's on it? I asked. Proof, she said. Names, orders, everything they erased. I stared at the drive like it was radioactive. Why me? Because you already have a platform, and because you understand betrayal. That word again. Before I could respond, she froze. Lights outside went dark. Every hair on my arm stood up. Get down, she whispered. The sound came next. Boots. Multiple. Slow. Deliberate. Not police. Not security. People who didn't need to rush. Lena moved like she'd been waiting for this moment all along. She shut off the lamp, plunging us into darkness, then pressed something into my hand. A phone. If I say run, you run, no matter what you hear. The door creaked. A voice called her real name. Come on, the voice said almost kindly. We just want to talk. I could barely breathe. Lena stepped forward into the shadows. You already tried to kill me. Conversation's over. Gunfire erupted. Not chaotic, controlled. Shots meant to wound, not warn. I crawled toward the back exit, heart pounding so loud I was sure they could hear it. Lena fought like something out of a nightmare, using the room, the darkness, the element of surprise. Then she shouted one word. Run! I bolted into the night, tears streaming, clutching the flash drive. Behind me, the building shook. Explosions. Sirens in the distance, but moving away, not toward. They jammed the signals, planned everything. I didn't stop running until my lungs burned. When I finally dared to look back, the building was silent again. Too silent. Lena didn't come out. And in that moment, I understood the true cost of survival, because the people who take everything from you don't stop just because you escape. They stop when you're erased. And the message waiting on my phone seconds later proved they weren't done with me yet. My phone vibrated while I was still running. Not a call, a message. Unknown number. You shouldn't have taken what isn't yours. I tripped on the curb and scraped my palms, pain slicing through my panic. Cars passed without slowing. The city kept breathing like nothing was wrong. I stared at the screen, hands shaking. They knew. I didn't go home. I didn't go to my mother's place. I drove until the streets changed names and the buildings stopped looking familiar. I parked in a grocery store lot that stayed open 24 hours and sat there for an hour, watching reflections in my mirrors, replaying every sound from the warehouse. Lena's voice, the gunfire, the explosion, and the way she hadn't come out. Another message appeared. Unknown number. The ranger made her choice. Now you need to make yours. I turned the phone off, then immediately turned it back on. Fear makes liars of us. We tell ourselves we want silence, but what we really want is information. At dawn, I checked into a cheap motel under a fake name. The room smelled like bleach and old smoke. I locked the door, dragged the chair under the handle, and finally let myself cry. Not pretty crying, the kind that shakes your ribs and leaves you gasping, because guilt is heavier than fear. Lena had warned me, and I'd still walk straight into her life like I belonged there. I pulled out the flash drive. It was warm, like it had absorbed the night. I plugged it into my laptop, hands hovering, heart pounding. Part of me hoped it would be empty, that this was all some elaborate misunderstanding. It wasn't. Folders opened one by one. Operation reports, video files, communication logs, casualty list, names, dates, locations, and videos. The first video was helmet cam footage, desert terrain, breathing loud in the mic. Lena's voice, different from the quiet nurse I'd known, sharper, commanding. Then gunfire, an ambush, men going down, someone screaming coordinates that were wrong, deliberately wrong. I slammed the laptop shut. My stomach churned. This wasn't just evidence, it was a death sentence. My phone rang. This time, it wasn't unknown. It was the man in the suit. I let it ring. Then I answered. "You should have listened," he said calmly. "Is she alive?" I demanded. A pause. "Lena is unaccounted for." That wasn't no, but it wasn't yes. "They're watching you," he continued. "Your phone, your IP, your patterns." I said I'd be collateral if I looked for her. "And now you are," he replied. I laughed, a broken sound. "So what? You're calling to threaten me?" "I'm calling to offer you a way out." I closed my eyes. "There's no out, is there?" Another pause. "No," he admitted, "but there are directions." He told me to destroy the flash drive, to forget her name, to go quiet for 6 months and let the heat die down. People have short memories, even about heroes. She saved a hospital full of people. "And that's exactly why this can't become a story," he replied. After we hung up, I sat there for a long time. Then I opened my YouTube dashboard. Notifications stacked higher than I'd ever seen them. Comments, messages, emails. People asking when the next story was coming. People saying my videos helped them survive their own betrayals. People trusting me. Another message buzzed through. This one sent a chill through my spine. "Unknown number. Post anything about her, and your mother's hospital room won't be so quiet next time." My blood went cold. They weren't bluffing. They'd already proven that. I drove to my mother's house anyway. I sat across from her at the kitchen table, watching her stir sugar into her tea with the same hand that had almost gone still days earlier. She smiled at me. "You look tired." "I'm fine," I lied. I hugged her longer than usual when I left, because I didn't know if I'd get another chance. That night, I made a copy of the flash drive, then another. I hid them in places even I wouldn't think to look twice at, because trust, once broken, doesn't grow back. It sharpens. At 3:12 a.m., my doorbell rang. I hadn't ordered anything. I hadn't told anyone where I was staying. Through the peephole, I saw a woman in hospital scrubs, hair tied back, badge clipped to her chest. My heart stopped. I opened the door. It wasn't Lena. The woman looked past me into the room. "They know you have the files," she said softly, "and they're cleaning up loose ends." "Who are you?" I whispered. She met my eyes. "Someone Lena trusted, and someone who's here to tell you the truth." Behind her, in the parking lot, headlights turned on one by one. And in that moment, I realized Lena hadn't disappeared. She'd activated something far bigger than either of us. The woman in scrubs stepped inside without waiting for permission. She locked the door behind her, then pulled the curtains shut with practiced speed. Her movements were efficient, too efficient for someone who worked nights handing out meds and charting vitals. "My name doesn't matter," she said. "If you know it, you can be forced to give it up." The headlights outside stayed on, engines idling, waiting. "You shouldn't have come here," I said, my voice barely steady. She gave me a sharp look. "You shouldn't have taken the drive alone. That wasn't the plan." "The plan?" I echoed. "Lena never told me there was a plan." "She wouldn't," the woman replied, "because plans get people killed when they know too much." She reached into her pocket and placed something on the table, a military-style earpiece and a burner phone. "They've been tracking you since the warehouse," she said. "They let you run because they wanted to see who you'd trust." My chest tightened. "Then why are you here?" "Because Lena didn't just disappear," she said quietly. "She escalated." She told me the truth in fragments, the way people do when the whole thing is too heavy to drop at once. Lena had anticipated this outcome the moment she stepped into that hospital hallway. The gunman wasn't just a test, it was a trigger, a way to force her hand. The moment she intervened, a contingency protocol activated, not official, off the books. A network of former operators, medics, intelligence analysts, logistics specialists, people who'd been burned, erased, or abandoned after serving. People like the woman standing in my motel room. She called it the Nightline, the woman said. People who work when the world is asleep, people no one notices. Night nurses, EMTs, security guards, janitors. Every one of them trained, every one of them invisible. My mind reeled. So the hospital was never random, she confirmed. It was one of our safe nodes. The headlights outside flicked off. Doors opened. Footsteps approached. The woman stiffened. "They're early." She pressed the earpiece into my hand. "Put it in." "I don't know how to use—" "You'll figure it out," she snapped. "You're still breathing. That's enough." A voice crackled to life in my ear. Low, female, calm. "Eyes up," the voice said. "They've breached the stairwell." My heart slammed against my ribs. That voice. "Lena?" I whispered. "Not now. Listen." The woman in scrubs moved to the door, crouching beside it. 3 men, private contractors, no badges, suppressed weapons. I felt like I was falling into someone else's life. "Why are you helping me?" I asked, shaking. "Because you're already in it," Lena said evenly, "and because you don't run when you're scared." The door handle rattled. A knock followed. Polite. Too polite. "Ma'am, hotel security, we need to ask you a few questions." The woman mouthed, "Don't answer." Lena spoke in my ear. "They know you have the files. They don't know how many copies." The knock came again, harder. The woman in scrubs moved fast, slipping out the bathroom window, disappearing into the dark like she'd never been there. The knock turned into a pound. "Open the door." Lena's voice dropped. "When they come in, go out the back. Run to the alley. Don't stop." "What about you?" I whispered. A pause. "I've already chosen my role," she said. The door splintered inward. Men flooded the room. I ran. barefoot, heart screaming, night air slicing my lungs. Behind me, shots fired, but not at me, at something else, someone else. I didn't stop until I reached the alley Lena described. A van waited, door open. Hands pulled me inside. The door slammed shut, plunging me into darkness. Lights came on inside the van. 3 faces stared back at me. None of them smiled. "You're safe for now, but you don't get to choose normal anymore." I swallowed hard. "What do you want from me?" The man leaned forward. "We want the truth told, and we want it told by someone they can't disappear quietly." The van pulled away. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from Lena. "They'll come harder now. If you stay silent, they win. If you speak, it gets dangerous." Another pause. "Either way, this ends tonight." And in that moment, I understood. The betrayal wasn't just about her unit, or the hospital, or even me. It was about a system that eats its own and calls it security, and exposing it would cost more than fear. It would cost blood. The man in the suit waited until the door to my mother's room was closed before he spoke again. "You need to understand something," he said, lowering his voice. "What happened here last night is not going to be reported the way you think it will." I felt my stomach drop. "People almost died." He nodded. "And because they didn't, certain people wanted quiet." That was the first time I realized the danger hadn't left with the gunman. It had just changed shape. My mother woke up an hour later, confused, asking why there were police outside the ward and why the ceiling tiles were cracked. I lied to her. I said there was a small incident, a false alarm. I smiled like everything was normal while my hands shook under the blanket. Because I couldn't stop thinking about Lena, about the way she'd moved, about how she'd looked at the gunman, not like a nurse, not like a victim, but like someone who had faced worse and survived. I asked the charge nurse where Lena was. The charge nurse frowned. "We don't have a Lena on nights." I laughed nervously. "Yes, you do. Dark hair, quiet, badge said—" She shook her head slowly. "No badge like that is registered in our system." Security footage from the hallway was corrupted. That's what they told me. The cameras inside patient rooms, offline for maintenance. The elevator footage, missing exactly 4 minutes. 4 minutes where Lena stopped a massacre. 4 minutes someone didn't want anyone else to see. I went home that morning but didn't sleep. Instead, I searched. Veteran databases, military commendations, Army Rangers discharged in the last 10 years, women with combat experience who might disappear into civilian life. Nothing concrete came up. Until I noticed something strange, a comment on one of my YouTube videos from 2 months earlier. The username was random, numbers and letters, but the comment said, "Sometimes the people who save us don't want to be known, they just want to be gone." At the time, I'd hearted it and moved on. Now my chest felt tight. That evening, the man in the suit came back. This time, he didn't pretend it was casual. "Miss Amon," he said, sitting across from me, "you're asking questions you shouldn't." "I'm asking about the woman who saved my mother's life." "She saved many lives," he corrected, "and because she did that, she broke several agreements." That word stuck with me. Agreements. "Who is she?" I asked. He studied my face like he was measuring how much truth I could handle. "She's former Army Ranger," he said finally. "Tier 1 training, multiple overseas deployments, specialized in hostage recovery and counter-assault." My heart pounded. Then why was she a night nurse? She wasn't, really. He told me pieces, not everything. Lena had been part of a classified operation that went wrong years ago, the kind of wrong that doesn't end with court-martials but with quiet disappearances. Some of her team died, others vanished into private security, black ops contracts, or early graves. Lena chose something else. She ran, changed her name, took jobs where people didn't look twice at her, places where competence was expected but heroics were not. Hospitals, night shifts, places full of pain, noise, and anonymity. She was supposed to stay invisible, the man said. Last night she sailed. I thought about the gunman again. You said my mother wasn't the target. He nodded. The gunman was a distraction, a test. Someone wanted to see if Lena was still capable. My blood ran cold. So they sent him? No, he said. They leaked her location to someone unstable and watched what would happen. That's worse, because it meant last night wasn't random, it was deliberate. Where is she now? I asked. He stood, gone. That's not an answer. It's the only one you'll get. Before leaving, he paused at the door. She likes you, he added. That's unusual for her. If she reaches out, if? I interrupted. He met my eyes. If she reaches out, don't try to follow her. People who look for her tend to end up collateral. 2 nights later, my mother was discharged. We were wheeled past the same elevator, the same hallway. Fresh paint covered the bullet holes. New tiles replaced the shattered ceiling. It looked normal, too normal. As we cast the nurse's station, I saw something tucked under the counter, a folded piece of paper. My name was written on it. Inside, in careful block letters, was a single sentence. They know I broke cover. Now they'll come for anyone connected to me. I'm sorry. Below it was a time and an address. Not a place to meet, a place to stay away from. That night, I didn't listen, because fear does strange things to gratitude. I told myself I just wanted to say thank you. I told myself I'd be careful. I told myself I wouldn't be seen. And that decision, walking toward the place she warned me away from, would put me directly in the crosshairs of the people who had already tried to kill her once. And when I arrived, I realized Lena wasn't running anymore. She was preparing for war. The moment Lena stepped out of hiding, the world seemed to hold its breath. Cameras caught her first, not news cameras, them. Traffic feeds, street-level surveillance, private lenses that didn't belong to any agency listed on paper. She walked into the open at exactly 6:41 a.m., wearing the same plain jacket she'd worn in the hospital, hands visible, posture relaxed. To anyone else, she looked like a tired woman heading home after a long shift. To them, she looked like unfinished business. They've locked on, someone said in the command room. I watched Lena's heartbeat on the screen, steady, controlled. How are you this calm? I whispered into the mic. Because panic wastes oxygen, and I need all of it. Black SUVs rolled into frame one by one. No sirens, no markings, just doors opening in unison. Men stepped out with weapons they pretended weren't weapons. This is it, the woman beside me murmured. Once they take her, we lose line of sight. And then, I asked. Then they break her, she said honestly. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. You have 30 seconds to comply. My hands were slick with sweat. The upload page was ready. Title blank, description empty, a story sitting in my chest that could burn everything down or get my mother killed. They're bluffing, someone said behind me. Lena cut in immediately. No, they're not. The room went quiet. They don't bluff with leverage. They demonstrate. On screen, one of the SUVs pulled away from Lena and merged into traffic, headed toward the hospital. My stomach dropped. They're moving early, I said. They want you to see the consequence, Lena replied. A man in the command room slammed his fist into the table. We can reroute, jam. No, Lena said sharply. If you spook them, they escalate. So what do we do? I demanded. She took a breath. You tell the truth. Now. I stared at the screen, at my channel, at the audience that trusted me with their own pain, their own betrayals. I thought about the comments I'd read, the ones that said, "Your stories helped me leave, your voice made me feel less alone." And I thought about my mother in that hospital bed, how close she'd come to never hearing my voice again. They're counting on your fear, Lena said gently, because fear keeps people quiet. The SUV surrounded her now, hands on her arms. She didn't resist. Do it, she said. I hit publish. The video went live at 6:43 a.m. The title wrote itself. The truth poured out of me fast, raw, shaking. I didn't polish it. I didn't soften it. I told them about the hospital, the gunman, the night nurse no one knew was an Army Ranger, the cover-up, the missing footage, the threats. I showed receipts, names, dates, clips, faces blurred, but voices clear. This isn't a movie, I said into the mic. This is happening right now. The view counter exploded. Hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, comments flooding faster than I could read. Is this real? Someone check this. I was at that hospital. I saw her. Phones in the command room started ringing nonstop. Laptops chimed. Trending, someone shouted. National, another voice yelled. They're scrambling, the woman beside me said. They didn't expect this scale. On screen, Lena was forced into one of the SUVs. As the door closed, she looked straight at the camera and smiled. Just slightly, like she knew something they didn't. My phone rang. Blocked number. I answered. You've made a serious mistake, a man said calmly. No, I replied, surprising myself with how steady my voice was. You did. You just forgot people were watching. Silence. Then, take it down. I glanced at the screen. The view count had crossed 1 million. Too late, I said. At the hospital, alarms suddenly blared. Not medical, security. On screen, the woman in scrubs moved fast, locking doors, redirecting staff, pulling my mother's bed away from the window. They're trying to extract leverage, Lena's voice came through faintly, interference heavy. But they can't move fast in daylight. Gunfire echoed through the suit feed. Shouts, chaos. Lena, I shouted. Static. The command room erupted again. They're splitting, someone yelled, half going dark, half trying to contain the fallout. A breaking news alert flashed across the screen. Unconfirmed footage surfaces of hospital shooting stopped by an unidentified staff member. Another alert, whistleblower video raises questions about private military contracts. Another, Senate Oversight Committee calls emergency session. The system was shaking, and it hated that. My phone buzzed one last time. Not a threat, a video, live. Lena, blood on her temple, restrained but awake. They won't kill me now, she said calmly, not with this much light. Are you sure? I whispered. No, she replied, but I am sure of this. She leaned closer to the camera. They're exposed, and exposed systems panic. The feed cut. I collapsed into the chair, shaking. What if they still hurt her? I asked. The woman beside me placed a hand on my shoulder. They already lost, she said. They just don't know how badly yet. Outside, sirens wailed, this time moving toward the danger. And for the first time since the hospital, I felt something stronger than fear. Hope. But hope is dangerous because it makes you believe the worst is over, and I didn't yet know the price Lena would pay or the final truth she would reveal to make sure this story didn't end in silence. Morning came without asking permission. Sunlight spilled across the command room floor like it didn't care what had happened overnight, like the world expected us to keep going. But nothing was the same. The video kept climbing, Millions now, countries I'd never visited, languages I didn't speak, people sharing, downloading, archiving, copying the truth faster than anyone could erase it. That was the moment I understood something important. They couldn't put this back in the dark. Lena was held for 48 hours, not officially detained, not officially charged, questioned. That word did a lot of lying. She later told me they moved her 3 times in one day, different rooms, different voices, same questions phrased 1,000 ways, hoping she'd slip. She never did, because the thing about people like Lena is this: they don't survive by accident. My mother was discharged under armed protection she never noticed. A nurse smiled. A janitor held the door. A security guard walked just a little closer than usual. The nightline, still invisible, still watching, still choosing to protect instead of disappear. When I tucked my mother into bed that night, she held my hand and said, "Whoever that nurse was, she saved a lot of people." I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. "Yes," I said, "she did." The hearings came fast after that. Emergency sessions, closed doors forced open by public pressure, names I wasn't supposed to say suddenly spoken on live television. Some people resigned. Some people vanished quietly, retired early, reassigned, unavailable for comment. No handcuffs, no dramatic arrests. Justice, it turns out, is rarely cinematic, but it is cumulative. 3 weeks later, I got a message, not encrypted, not hidden, just a normal text. Coffee, noon, same jacket, no signature. I didn't need one. Lena looked thinner when I saw her, a small cut near her hairline, bruises she didn't talk about, but her eyes steady as ever. She ordered black coffee. "So," she said, "you changed my life." I laughed weakly. "You saved my mother, and you saved the truth. Fair trade." She told me she wouldn't be staying. "Somewhere quiet," she said, "where people don't ask questions." "Another hospital?" I asked softly. A ghost of a smile touched her lips. "Maybe." I hesitated, then asked the question that had been sitting in my chest since the beginning. Was it worth it? She didn't answer right away. Then she said, "I live with the faces of the people I couldn't save. I can live with this." Before she left, she handed me something, not a flash drive, a folded piece of paper. On it was a list, first names only. People who will never be recognized, but who stood up when it mattered. I folded it carefully. "I won't forget them." "I know. That's why I trusted you." She stood to go. At the door, she paused. "One more thing," she said. "The gunman." "Yes." "He thought he was invisible, that no one would notice him until it was too late." She met my eyes. "That's how systems like this survive, by convincing people they're alone." Then she was gone. The video is still up. I never took it down. Sometimes I read the comments when the night gets quiet. People say they saw her. People say they were her. People say they didn't think telling the truth would matter, but now they're not so sure. And every once in a while, I see a comment with no username, photo, and a simple line of text. "Still watching." I always heart it. Here's what I learned. Betrayal doesn't always come from enemies. Sometimes it comes from systems built to protect us, systems that forget who they serve. Heroes don't always wear uniforms. Sometimes they wear scrubs. Sometimes they work nights. Sometimes they disappear so others can live. And the most dangerous lie of all, that one voice can't change anything. Because I've seen what happens when the truth is spoken at the right moment by the right person with nothing left to lose. It doesn't just expose darkness, it forces the light to stay on. If you're watching this and wondering whether your voice matters, it does. Someone is listening, someone is waiting, and somewhere, right now, a quiet person is standing between danger and the people who don't even know they need saving.